Chapter 40. A Dangerous Ally. Hannakon listened intently as Trig, Hannakon, and Vitruvius took it in turns to explain the situation and the nebulous series of events leading up to it. Over the next couple of hours, several members of the conclave filtered into the chamber and retook their seats. Finally, Hannakon held up a hand. You keep saying that Alex is rebuilding the Horde, but from where I'm watching, it doesn't look that way. He might be flying our old colors and using the old names, but absolutely none of what you describe sounds like the old ways to me. Wanton murder and destruction was never how we operated.
Kidnapping and enslavement, Kira said in a weak voice. Favorite weapons of the Khan.
Don't speak out of turn, concubine, Hannakon said without looking at Kara, who flinched and held her face in her hands. The whore is right. Insolent in her old age, but right nonetheless. Selecting one girl out of a crowd is more in line with the Vestum regime. The Horde claims everyone. So now I must ask, why was Honora targeted? Our former friend might have a reason to take her. Did she still have the keystone shard that she got from the Lightwater thief? No, Trig answered quickly. I've got it. All 3 of the shards we've got so far are locked up. Hannakon, go check the cascade, Cantor ordered. No one's been aboard since all this shit went down. With a soft rushing sound, Hannakon reverted to his nanobot cloud form, rushing out of the room as though blown away by a strong wind. I hate it when he does that, Hannakon remarked with a shudder, but he got what he deserved that day. So then, are we all of the same opinion? Avitus and Camber are working together. The possibility is too strong to ignore, Brulon replied. Avitus targeted the Keystone Shard and Honora. That implies he has knowledge only Alex Camber was privy to. The Keystones are still unknown by the interstellar public. Honora herself is simply known on MSI news broadcasts as the girl who robbed Camber. Avitus might believe he is helping Camber. One of the Conclave members, an Olenbar, interrupted. She has not been on one of our news broadcasts in several weeks. Sutharia has taken over the news cycle. Hannakon frowned. Right, and what about my old ship? You were certain the Kaldorix was heading toward Tritonus. Absolutely, Trig replied. We saw it enter hyperspace. There are several star systems between Tritonus and Chor's compass, Hannakon said. And I have heard nothing of the Kaldorix appearing over the Olenbar homeworld. You must understand, young man, that if such an infamous vessel were to appear at Tritonus, it would be top-of-the-hour news. The whole of the luminous frontier would be talking about it. Kaldorix never went to Tritonus. Furthermore, there was simply no need for Camber to take it there. Think on it for a moment. Trig stopped to think. So did the mercenaries. After a few moments, Trig's eyes went wide, and he swore loudly. Oh no! The conduit network! Exactly, Hannakon responded. At some point, a long time ago, Camber traveled to Tritonus via the conduits, found Avitus and recruited him to his own side, then used the network to place infiltrators on this very station and lay a trap. He must have been plotting to seize the keystones for some time. Trig clenched his fists. And there's a conduit on the Kaldorix. It doesn't matter where in the galaxy that ship is. He can just walk through a doorway and go anywhere, Trig seethed. Not anywhere, Vitruvius said. Just wherever the Horde placed infiltrators during the war 15 years ago. Tactical Officer Rulon suddenly sprang to his feet with an exclamation of surprise. Several of the nearby telepaths became excited as well. Rulon's emotions had spilled into them. So let's reverse the connection, Rulon said. Why don't we use the conduit here on the station to invade Kaldorix? Yeah, Trig said. Let's go through and get Tenna back. We can get those 2 keystones from Elix while we're there, Cantor added. Hannakon let out an evil cackle. So, this is why you called me here, Hannakon said to Vitruvius. A juvenile raid. The young man recovers his stolen toy, while Ponoko gets Camber's keystone. Brother, you've gone soft in your old age. And you have not, Vitruvius replied, staring at him through his bandages. You have access to weapons, and a lust for violence. I thought you would enjoy the opportunity for an outing. Manipulative bastard, Hannakon grumbled. Then he spoke to Trig and the mercenaries. Why should I help you anyway? A strange group of Solitharians who let females carry weapons and give 3 of the Khan's keystone fragments to a mere boy? Selborne's weapon hand twitched, but Cantor made her freeze with a look. Then he addressed Hannakon. That boy, Cantor said, pointing at Trig, is Malam's only son, the flesh and blood progeny of the great Khan himself. We are racing Camber to Malam's old sanctum on the necropolis. I would rather see the great Khan's secret legacy in Trig's hands, and not Camber's. I'm sure he would agree. Hannakon folded his arms, scowling in deep thought. Trig could see Vitruvius and all of the other members of the conclave trying to read his mind. After a moment, several of the nearby telepaths smiled and flashed positive hand gestures at Trig. Then, Hannakon said, You're right, I do agree. I can spare some men and guns for this little raid of yours. I can even get you a ship from my dockyards in Bayou. But of course, this is going to cost you. No one ever goes to war for free. Shit, Selborne grumbled. There goes all of our money from the Eddleton job. You sure we can't just keep using the Cascade? Roulan held up a hand. Hold on. We're not spending a single rupee until we have a real plan of attack. I need to gather intelligence about the enemy, and then present the captain with options. Anfeld chuckled and said, That's why he's the tactical officer. Only he thinks of this stuff. The mercenaries began to leave the conclave chamber, telling Vitruvius that they needed to return to their ship and plan out the rescue raid. Vitruvius wished Trig and his companions well, staying behind with his fellow telepaths. Trig, who was getting better at listening to people's minds, was able to catch this exchange just before he entered the tunnel. Well, Vitruvius, consider me impressed, said Hannakon. Malam's favorite toy actually gave him a child. The boy's got potential, but the mother has forgotten her manners. I think I'll beat her face in again for old time's sake, and to make sure she doesn't pass off her insolence to him. There was a tense pause, made worse by a knot of fear in Trig's chest. Then Vitruvius replied, Get the hell out of my monastery, Hannakon. And if you control yourself around Shepminter and his allies, I'll convince the Conclave to give our next security contract to your business. I doubt we're going to hire MSI for security again. Trig walked almost a kilometer back to the dockyards, clambered aboard the Resonance Cascade, and found the mercenaries in the CIC. Hannakon and his 2 retainers joined them as well. Tactical Officer Roulan was gathering up all of the data he could, and he ordered everyone else to help out. Download all space traffic data from the nearest MSI starbase. I need to know exactly where Caldorix went after we saw it in Tor's compass. Anfel, see if you can pull up any records of FTL communications in that area. We need to confirm whether our young lady friend is aboard the vessel. Trig raised his hand. I could do it. Check to see if Tenna's on Caldorix, I mean. Kara's eyes widened. You're going to use psionics? She asked. Trig nodded. Hannakon waved to get his attention. If you're going to use psionics to seek out the girl, talk to Hannakon. He used to be a telepath and can advise your techniques. He is 2 decks down. I sensed him when I came aboard. Trig was glad to have an excuse to leave the CIC, because as soon as Hannakon was done with him, the old warlord got into an argument with Tactical Officer Rulon, saying it was inappropriate for Cellborn, a woman, to be allowed inside of the CIC. While Rulon defended his comrade, Trig slipped away. Hannakon was in the armory, standing with his back pressed against the safe box and clutching a rifle in his hands. Hannakon is on board, Hannakon said. Not that I would have preferred. Eventually, we will have to talk to him about his keystone. He won't just give it to us, Trig said. He has no reason to give it up, Hannakon replied. We'll deal with that crisis at a better time. Now, what are you looking for down here? I want to try using psionics to contact Tenna, Trig explained. It's really hard to explain, but sometimes we can, share dreams, Hannakon replied. I'm not surprised. Spontaneous telepathic links can sometimes happen when 2 people share a strong, mutual affection. Here, you're going to need these. Hannakon turned around and opened the safe box. He withdrew all 3 of the keystone shards and gave them to Trig. Sleep with these clutched tightly in your hand, Hannakon explained. The keystone is made from volucite, a natural conductor of psionic energy. You may have an easier time reaching her. I will stand guard while you sleep, though I think I hear Rulon keeping our unpleasant guest busy.